15K Plus Random Movie Reviews, where we randomly pick movies from Metacritic's all-time movie list of over 15,000 movies, covering everything from the best to the very worst, bringing you our genuine impressions and candid opinions, whether we like it or not. Hello and welcome to episode 46 of 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews. This is Colin.
And this is Niall.
And this is random movie number 2 on our Best Oscar winner, director, not director, picture, whatever. What is it? Best Picture, Oscar. Yeah, we've got 95 or so of them. And last week we got number 2. And the movie is Coda from 2021. It got its Best Picture Oscar, the 2022 Oscars, the year of the Will Smith slap.
Oh, crikey, that was the year. My God, yes.
That's why we don't know about this movie.
Because all we remember about the Oscars is...
What a douchebag. I can't watch any Will Smith movie from now on.
Yeah, which is a shame, because I liked a lot of his stuff, and then he went and did that idiotic thing.
Oh, dear. Yeah. So anyway, Coda won Best Picture. It won Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Troy Kotsur.
Deservedly so, I think.
Yeah, he has a nice face for acting. His face.
He does.
Yeah.
Very expressive man.
Yeah. And they won a Best Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay by the director Sian Heder. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, Sian. I know you're a big fan.
Bill Hader's sister, I believe.
Are you serious?
No.
Spelled differently.
You know. Probably no relation.
No relation. I can see some part of the humor in the movie. I could see she wrote maybe like 20 episodes of Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
And I can see the humor coming through in this movie from time to time, a little bit raunchy at times and a little bit blue, but it was quite funny at times.
Very funny, I thought at times, this movie. Surprisingly so.
Surprisingly slow. I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, same as I was expecting, because I'd read the synopsis and I thought, here we go. Thing about emotions and family and coming of age and dealing with adversity. And yeah, it has all those things, but it's very funny the whole way through.
Yeah, and it's, I like a bit of emotions and sentimentality, but I don't like it when they ramp it up to 11. This was like at a solid 7, 8 out of 10 emotional, baggage, I guess.
Just to draw a contrast between this and Past Lives. That was a lot of emotion and blah, 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 but basically zero humor in my head. Absolutely humorless. And I can't have a movie that is, emotional, relational, and all this sort of stuff. But without humor, everything just is miserable, and I don't want that.
No,
this is lovely. Actually, the pace and the setting of it is just well done. It's just nicely aimed.
Yeah, and all of the characters at the end of the movie, like with Past Lives,
you care about them in this.
Yeah.
Past Lives, I wanted them all just to F off. In this, I wanted everybody to be happy, because I cared about each and every one of them.
Yeah, and there's one or two flaws I want to pick up, and I wanted to see if you agree on them, but it doesn't really affect it, but it's part of the plot, and I was like, but it was only one sort of thing I picked up on, and I'll mention it as we go along. But yeah, I was the sign of a movie that's as good is when you think about it the next day, and I was thinking about it today, and also I was listening to the soundtrack because there's some great songs. And,
stunning.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful, and I'd never heard of that Joni Mitchell song. Before. It's so good. And then I fell into a rabbit hole on the internet where she sung this song live a few years ago at the age of 78, and her voice, you need to look this up on YouTube, of her singing it at some American music festival. And she's surrounded by other jazz or musicians and singers, and everybody's crying because her voice is just amazing for a 78-year-old. She sings it in a low key, but it's crazy good, and I just listened to it today, and I
must Google that myself.
Yeah, do it.
It's really good. I love
Joni. Yeah. So this 2022 wasn't the best year for movies. If you look at the movies that were up against it, maybe it wouldn't have won. It was the height of COVID as well, or coming out of COVID, I guess.
So this was straight to streaming, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was basically a budget of 10 million, and I think it was the first movie that a streaming platform won a Best Oscar for the picture. So Apple Movies got there ahead of Netflix. So obviously with a straight to streaming. It was a budget for 10 million, and then like the record show it got 2.2 million, but I'm guessing with Apple buying the rights to it, I guess
it's an unfair metric for a straight to streaming movie, because I'm sure that Apple paid a downside more, I would hope, because it deserves to get its money back in some.
Which is why websites like Metacritic is good now, just to show, you know, the ratings and the actual reviews and the quality of it that a number of different people see. I think streaming movies are going to obviously become a bit more popular, and we won't have the data for profits as we did in the past.
It doesn't mean the same thing anymore, and I don't think it's fair to poo-poo on something because it actually never made it to the cinema necessarily.
So the movies that came out that year were Dune. Dune was up for Best Picture. That was a pretty good movie, I thought.
That is a decent movie. I actually prefer this movie, but I really enjoyed Dune.
Yeah, Dune 2 is coming out soon as well, but Dune was good. I watched it when I was living in Japan at the time, and I was like, yeah, this is good. This is fine.
It was much better than the
80s,
70s or 80s.
70s.
Yeah. Lynch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the guy, the actor from Twin Peaks as well. What's his name again?
Yeah.
God, we're terrible. We always do this.
He was in Sex and the City as well.
yeah, exactly.
That guy.
Yeah, his name will pop into my head at some point.
Yeah, but that was way better. Anyway, we're not here to review Dune.
No. Anyway, other movies that came out, just because it's interested. King Richard I never watched. Don't Look Up I watched. I thought it was terrible. It was that sort of invasion movie with... Yeah, it was terrible. West Side Story remake, whatever. Belfast, Kenneth Branagh. I never watched it.
That's supposed to be quite good. I haven't seen it. My wife's seen it. She said it's very good.
And Licorice Pizza, which I have not watched, but it would be probably on the same lines as this. Quite an indie movie. And also, did you get the Star Wars connection?
Oh,
with this movie, Troy Kotsur. Is it Kotsur or Kotsun? Sorry, Kotsur.
The Oscar-winning best supporting actor.
Yeah. He created the sign language for the Tusken Raiders in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett.
Get out of town. Oh, wow. I don't know if he did that bit, but the sign language. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool, isn't it? Yeah, that's great. It's based on the French film La Famille Bélier, and 40% of the movie is in sign language. Doesn't really feel like that.
Not at all. Like, obviously, at the start, you realize it's a very heavy sign language movie, but that sort of fades away from consciousness, really.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a story about a coming of age girl with, difficulties, obviously being child of deaf adults. I think that's given away in the title.
Yeah.
But it's the conflict between what the family need and what she needs in life. And that's the story. And it's not exactly new a concept at all. It's been done 1,000 times. It's just a very nice take on it.
Yeah, I think it's executed well. We start... sorry, I didn't do the nutshell movie or nutshell summary.
Oh, yes.
It's quite long on Metacritic, but also I'll talk very quickly. Gifted with a voice that her parents can't hear, 70-year-old Ruby is the sole hearing member of a deaf family at Coda, which means a child of deaf adults, as you just said. Her life revolves around serving as an interpreter, also an entrepreneur, actually, for her fun-loving but sometimes embarrassing parents.
Yes.
And working on the family's struggling fishing boat every day before school with her father and older brother. But when Ruby joins her high school's choir club, she discovers a gift for singing and finds herself drawn to her duet partner Miles, with help from her supporting, if tough-loving choir master,
Mr. V.
Mr. V is a very good character. I like him. Yeah. Ruby is encouraged to apply to a prestigious music school, Berkeley. However, she finds herself torn between taking care of her family and chasing her dreams. So I think the beginning of the movie is very cool and very nice. It's Etta James, Something's Got a Hold on Me. She has it in her MP3 player or whatever it's called these days. Not her Spotify on her smartphone, I'm guessing. It's juxtaposed with the slimy, sludgy, grudging work of fishing on their fishing boat, which I think it's such an uplifting song, but they're just harpooning fish and slapping it around.
Yeah, drudgery and misery / singing along to an amazing tune. Amazing. It's a wonderful tune, wonderful scene. Obviously, let you know pretty early that everybody else in the boat apart from her are deaf. So she's singing away. They're just working.
Yeah,
but the dad cracks it up to 11. So he obviously, like later on, we find out he likes the vibrations of music.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we do find that during the movie that how deaf people interact with the world. And I totally realize, because I've done a lot of inclusive less courses for the jobs I've been doing. I realize deaf people is not the right way to say stuff. It's people with hearing disabilities, but we're going to be here all night if we do that.
Yeah.
So please just understand, for the ease of getting through this, deaf people is probably something we'll just go with throughout this to make it easier for us to actually fit this in under 2 hours. So please understand, we know how to say it properly, but we have to do it this way.
Yeah.
So they're fishing. They come into shore, and we get the sense that there's trouble afoot. Fish aren't going for good prices, and nothing's. It's all pretty much going downhill.
The warehouse guy who takes their stock is a bit of an a-hole, and he's trying to rip them off at every turn.
Yeah, and it weaves its way through the movie quite nicely. It doesn't interrupt too much with the main threads of the movie, but it's always something that drives the undercurrent of that sort of plot line of, okay, we have to do something because we're losing money every day here fishing. So I very much liked the goodbye sequence between brother and sister. It was quite good.
Oh, the slagging off. Yeah. When they come up with different insults for each other in sign language.
It was
beautiful. Real.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it was
real.
Great. Yeah, so he called her dick face and she called him twat waffle.
Which was an amazing insult.
Yeah, it's great. And it was great just to see the sign language.
Oh, yeah. You got to believe I wrote that down.
Yeah. So we can insult
you never
people.
know when that's useful.
Yeah. So we go down to school. So she goes straight to school from working on a fish boat. So I'm not sure she's smelling the best. She is asleep in class because she's up at 3:00 every morning. We see that happen, sort of like a Groundhog Day sort of thing throughout the movie.
She gets a bit of stick then in school from the cool kids, which what I like is it doesn't focus on.
Excellent.
I'm super delighted that's not it's kind of brought up, but this isn't about that. This isn't Glee. This isn't one of those generic coming of age movies. This isn't about that at all, and it doesn't bother wasting time on that. Introduces the concept and then just leaves it because it's not. You don't need to go there.
Yeah, I think we're very similar with that. Like, I think the girl bully shows up twice. I think she smells her in the corridor and says something. Yeah. I wrote down bully trope on my notes. It's like,
that's exactly where my head was going with this, and especially when the choir thing gets introduced. I'm like, oh God, no! Where the hell is this movie going? Because I had hopes in the first 30 seconds. I was like, yes, this is actually a good. I like what they're doing here. And then that stuff gets introduced, and I'm like, oh, Christ, no. But it doesn't go where I thought it was going, thank God.
Thank God. And like, even the choir students that are in the choir don't pick on her. They're just there to sing as well. And so I really liked that each choir scenes were actually quite nice and quite,
but
homely.
But even that, the choir scene's kind of irrelevant. It's there to kind of move it along a little bit. And I kind of liked it doesn't focus on the choir because the other members of the choir, apart from one boy, are irrelevant.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and we just see it a couple of times during the movie, the whole choir ensemble. And
but those bits are done well, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and like there's some, well, we'll get to it in a minute. So this is the part of the movie where she sees the boy. She likes the boy. She's staring at him and stuff.
That's why she joins the choir in the first place, I believe.
She joins the choir. She sees him say choir, and she goes choir, and her friend is going, what the hell?
Yeah, if you start doing that thing with the cups, we're true.
Yeah. So her parents pull up outside and have gangster rap blaring out of the thing. And this is when he goes, I like the sound, I like the vibe on my ass. I like the vibrations on my ass. So that was funny. That was quite funny. And she chucks her bike into the back and
very embarrassing parents. And he's enjoying life. He doesn't give a damn.
Yeah. It's sort of like the first movie I've watched where it's not seen as a disability, the deafness. It's the realities of it, but it's not. They're not the victims in this. Oh no, not
even close. Are they the victims?
No, they're in control. They're living their normal lives as best they can, and they face challenges. And we actually learn how people with hearing disabilities are actually interact with the world. So that's very pertinent later on in the concert scene.
Very much so. One of an amazing scene, but we can get into that later.
Yeah. So anyway, she heads home. And no, she doesn't head home. She goes to a very embarrassing doctor scene.
I love this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where the dad's complaining about an itch in his groinal area, and it's like barnacles. I think he describes it in sign language.
He's so
daughter has to translate it. Incredibly descriptive. The daughter's like, "Oh my god, really? Do I have to say this?" But she does. And then the doc says, "Oh, you got jock itch. Don't worry about it. But it is infectious, so you'll have to stay away from sex for 2 weeks." And the daughter translates this, but says, "Oh, you have to stay away from sex for the rest of your life. You'll never have sex again." And the dad's like, "What?" But then she goes, "Okay, 2 weeks," and he still freaks out.
2 weeks, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, you think the joke's over at that stage, and then they pull that sort of extra punchline. It was quite clever.
Very funny, yeah.
What was interesting to me when they go home, the brother is on Tinder, swiping away,
beeping away like crazy in the corner.
Yeah, the dad is talking about the pageantry past of mom. But what I really noticed was how loud a deaf house is.
Yeah, because they don't know how loud they're banging away in plates, and he's cleaning the grill on the barbecue, banging away in it. Bro's beeping away in his phone, and she's sitting there trying to do her homework. Going, "You guys are wrecking my head."
Yeah, it's such and I've never thought about it before. It's like, oh yeah, that's probably right.
I love the next scene though, which is part of this scene, I suppose, where she's told, I can't remember, put your phone away at the dinner table or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but then the brother takes out his phone. He starts doing Tinder, going swiping left, swiping right, swiping left, swiping right. And sis is like, "No, why has he got his phone?" And they're like, "No, we're doing this as a family."
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great scene. You can do Tinder as long as it's done as a family.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can all. So this is sort of like an undercurrent of trying to describe the undercurrent of the relationship in the family. So we have Ruby, that's the only hearing person in the family. So she is different, and she is treated different by her mum, dad, and brother, and they don't realize it. They just sort of rely on her to interact with the rest of the world. Now, the brother is sort of at odds and ends with that. He feels like he's the older brother. He wants to be more active with the rest of the world and the business. And he's really, what's the word? He's really sort of...
He's left out because of it. He's put to the side almost. He hasn't got a chance to shine as part of the family and contribute to the family's business. He's just a deckhand, and he doesn't want to be just a deckhand.
Yeah.
And in fairness, the family rely on Ruby because, quite frankly, it's handy to have somebody who can translate for them, and they don't have to interact all that much with people because it's difficult, I suppose.
Yeah. He's resentful. He's resentful of Ruby's place.
Yes.
And that's something I'll mention later. It's probably the two things that we'll comment on later.
Just kind of hints at it here, but it really comes to a front or fore later on in the movie.
Yeah,
and then not he doesn't do it in a mean fashion, which is kind of beautiful how it comes about.
He's frustrated. He's frustrated. I think it's a life full of frustration just come to a head. Especially when he thinks he can do it. So he can read lips, he says, and so he can take over the family business. Ruby doesn't need to be here. But anyway, the next scene is the first choir scene, and Bernardo.
Don't even bother trying to say my name unless you can roll an R.
Yeah, if you call me Mr. V, you're just a lazy git or something like that.
I would have called him Mr. V, like Ruby does.
Yeah. I really love the happy birthday scene of everybody just singing happy birthday or singing the happy birthday tune.
All I could see was Marilyn Monroe.
Oh yeah,
that's all I could pop into my head when people are singing that in a Glee style fashion.
Yeah, something like it hot episode 44. Everybody. That was funny, and I like the way Ruby never sang in front of people before, so she runs away, and Mr. V goes, "We have a runner."
It's a great line.
Yeah, I was trying to think, what movie is We Have a Runner?
We Have a Bleeder is the only thing I can think of.
We have a bleeder.
We don't need
something
to get
about
into
Mary. Something about Mary. Franks and beans. So she goes to a quarry and does a lovely happy birthday rendition on the quarry where it echoes around everywhere, and that's really nice. And like,
I don't usually know about, sorry, I was gonna say, I don't know about you, but every time the quarry pops up as a scene, it kind of freaks me out.
You don't like quarries?
Well, not when they're used as a swimming hole. Like
the depths. You've got thalassophobia, isn't that what it's called? Lassophobia? That's the fear of the dark.
Fear
water.
of Lassie. Yes, absolutely. I have a fear of water that I will drown in.
I think it's lassophobia or thalassophobia. Anyway, that's another thing you can look up later. I think there's a subreddit for the entire thing, so it just basically shows big ships rocking in big waves and shit like that. Yeah. All right, so there's money issues at home. There's when she comes home from the quarry, there's a massive sign language argument happening, and so he, it's like, we can't keep doing this. We're getting no money whatsoever, and it's just that, as a person with not a lot of experience with sign language happening around me, it's quite loud with the hand slapping and everything.
Yeah, it's an argument, or maybe not an argument, but it's animated. It's because the sign language is incredibly animated. It's basically shouting.
Yeah.
And the daughter sees that, and she looks for a second and just walks away because she doesn't want to deal with that.
So she should have sort of, she has her own stuff, and she's like, maybe it's that part of the movie where she's going, I don't need to be part of all this argument. And the next day they have the news that they're going to have monitors on the boat, and they have to pay $800 a day, and they're like, that's more than earn every day. So it's like, just
in fairness, that's an incredible amount of money to have somebody sitting on your boat for a day. It does seem like somebody's ripping somebody off there.
Yeah, so we have interspersed scenes where she's with Mr. V, and he's trying to get her to sing from the belly, and there's the dog scene. I like the way that he brings up. We used to have a Bob Dylan reference in every movie, but we can have.
Yes, I forgot about our Bob Dylan references, but this was where he says he sang like glue and salt or something. I can't remember what.
He couldn't be fucking much wrong. Wrong items. David Bowie said of Bob Dylan, he has a voice of sand and glass.
Sand and glass, sorry.
Not fucking sticks and glue.
Cheese and bacon. I don't know. I didn't write it down.
Yeah, it's good. Jesus Christ. That's what note taking is for.
I know. I should have taken that note. I was too busy chuckling.
Yeah. All right, so she takes her best friend home, and she mentions, Leo got hot, the brother. And Ruby puts on the Shags, which I've never heard of before. It sounds insane, but I didn't listen to the Shags today. I should have, actually, just to see
to be honest, from the song she played, the Shags, I'm not all that interested in finding out about them because it was kind of cack.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, I don't know. It's alternate rock.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Yeah. The dog scene in that... the dog scene was very funny, I thought, in that music class before we... the dog scene was later. It was actually after this scene. She, funnily, her friend says, how do you say I want to get in your pants? And she does the sign for I've got herpes or whatever. That was another funny little thing.
And Leo was like, why? Why?
What?
Why would you tell me that?
So another music class scene. They're singing "Let's Get It On," and they do the dog scene then because nobody's singing it from their diaphragm.
Little dog, medium dog, big dog.
Yeah.
What I liked about that is Mr. V. Like, he comes across as a bit of an a-hole, but he initially picks on her to come up and sing, and she's not singing. So he starts making her do this woof, woof, woof thing to get her diaphragm working. But she doesn't want it because she's embarrassed. But then he goes, okay, you're embarrassed. Everybody do it. And that works. So
I don't think he comes across as an a-hole at all. I just think he's very
straightforward. He doesn't mess about.
He's very passionate. He's passionate about.
So, I suppose that can be intimidating. And then most of the class were a little intimidated. She was. But he fixes it by making them all do the same thing.
That's right. So we get the first introduction here of Ruby and Miles doing "You're All I Need to Get By" Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. Nice song. They they're not really
they can't look
getting
at
into it. Yeah, they're awkward like teenagers would be.
Yeah,
because they're facing each other having to sing this sort of love song. So we head back to the pier, and Bro is getting ripped off by the seller of fish, and Ruby comes like, "Hey, they're selling for $3 over there," and he's again mad.
$2.75. And the Bro's like, "Screw you! I could have done this deal."
The Bro is then showing his resentment again of her
which
coming
I get, but I also get why she'd, fix the deal.
Well, yeah, because it's sort of frustrating, and as a sister to person that is deaf, you'd be like, you don't want these idiots taking advantage of them, even if they're older than you. And this is the first time she's like, we'll sell the fish. And they're like, we can't do that.
Good luck with that. Yeah, and the mum poo-poos that deal, or the dad, sorry, in this situation, poo-poos that idea because he's like, "Will how? Such go away."
Yeah, as he smokes his joint.
You can't do that in public. He's like,
whatever. So back to the music room. We've got the whole very nice thing, do what you want to do song, and they hand out the percussion instruments, and one of them messes up, so he just takes it back from her. That was funny.
Yeah, that's the a-hole bit.
Yeah.
No, sorry about that. That's not for you. No, you're crap. Give me that.
Yeah. And he has there's a lot of nice conversation between Mr. V and Ruby, and he's in a scene. He's like they have a duet together. It's called a duet.
You've got to do it together.
Yeah. And so he basically, it was nice. It was like, you can sing, and she's like,
yeah.
She's like, it's my favorite thing.
And then he mentions Berkeley, and she's like, what's a Berkeley?
Yeah.
And he's like,
I like the way also that she signs how she feels.
Yeah.
Because that's a nice anchor to what she does later on. I only realize now going back to that. It's like, oh yeah, that's.
I think the point being that she probably signed before she spoke, I would imagine.
True. Yeah,
so that's her first language.
Yeah, because she did mention she spoke funny and she got bullied when she first started school because she probably learned how to speak well in school. Yeah.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Good point. Okay, so she goes back home, and this is my first sort of synopsis of a character. So she tells her mum she joined the choir. From now on, I don't like the mom until the end.
Yes, because the mum just makes it up, as Ruby says, she makes it about herself. And to be honest, all she said was, "I've joined the choir."
Yeah,
and
nothing else.
Mum straight away poo-poos it. Like, it was like basically saying it was a stupid thing to do. Without saying that, but that's what she implies. And that's an awful thing to do.
Very.
Quite clearly enthused about something.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I'm trying to think of the complexity of it all. Obviously, she knows Ruby as this person within her very close family that interprets for her. She doesn't realize, or maybe she didn't care, what other passion she has at this point. Now, I'm going to get it out now because I feel it makes sense when I talk about it now. So she's a dick to Ruby up until a very, 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 very quick turnaround where later on her dad basically realizes, she's a great singer, and then the next day they go, let's go, we're going to take you to Berkeley to audition as a family. And that's a very, very quick turnaround from her being a dick and saying, no, best staying here, to going, I'm with you all the way as a family. I didn't like that. I think it needed to be a bit more gradual, that shift, because the mum was a hard nut. The dad was more emotional.
The dad kind of copped it a lot earlier. And I think the mum's realization might have been the night before the choir, when she comes up after, well, maybe we'll talk about it when we get to the scene, but I think she kind of half cops it when she sees the sacrifice that she's making, and kind of half understands it and explains her motivation for being a dick, in that when she was born, she says...
when she was born, she wanted baby to be deaf, and
she was scared of the lack of connection. Scared of losing her, and I think that shows true later on as well.
Well, but she did lose connection,
but her own fear was the loss of connection. Nearly, she almost caused the connection to be broken because of her fear.
At this point, the bro is at the bar and he has the bar fight, isn't that?
Yeah, some a-hole, speaking of a-holes, spilled the beer on him, and the bro, Leo, goes up to him and goes, "Hey, you just spilled beer on me." Obviously didn't say it, he just points at himself and goes, "Beer, you asshole." The guy's like, feck off, freak. And the bro's like, "Okay, I can lip read." Smack. Which is fair enough.
I think also this is a scene before this happens where he's sitting at the table and he just feels he has no clue what's going on. And it's another greatly shot and produced scene where we as hearing people don't understand how out of the sort of life that you may feel if you can't follow a conversation around a round table when people aren't actually looking at you,
Yeah, I would imagine it's similar if you go to, say, you go live in a foreign country, you go for pints with somebody who don't speak your language or don't take time to speak, a common language, and if you're sat there staring at the wall effectively while people are laughing around you, it's kind of crap. People forget, I guess, is the problem. It's not necessarily done out of malice.
No, it's not. And actually, you know what? Like I've started a new job. There's like 40 people around me, and it's hard to make your way into a conversation when you've got no leverage. And that's like me as all seeing, all hearing idiot, but it's really hard. It's hard to like come into a situation and just go, yeah, that's happened to me, blah, 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 blah. Now imagine that you can't hear. Like, how do you communicate?
Yeah.
But there has to be and this is mentioned later in the movie, there has to be some real world has to fucking work towards you as well. Now, she says that, or they say that later on, or I think the brother says it. He says, Ruby says it. She says, yeah, well, they're just going to have to learn to work with you.
Yeah.
Not you working with them.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
No, that comes up as part of business stuff later on that really actually seems to make a massive difference later on when they change tack.
Yeah. So anyway, the bro's at the bar later and he's text flirting with Ruby's friend, basically works behind the bar.
Yeah, and then they go to a room that says employees only.
Yeah.
Yeah, that escalated quickly, is what I wrote down here.
And the door closes.
Yes,
next scene. Yes. So Ruby and Miles are at home in her bedroom and they're having a duet together and it's quite nice. And then, how do you describe it?
Awkward, exclamation mark. It's incredibly awkward. The two of them looking at each other at the start, and that's really just not working. They can't do it. They can't stare. Every time they make eye contact, they look away. So they go back to back.
Yeah.
Which kind of helps a little bit, and they sing away. It's a nice scene, and they start chatting about some of the music taste she has around the room and stuff like that. And he sees the Shags. He goes, "Oh, the Shags! I love these guys."
But then they're singing.
Oh, the scene! But then, as they're singing, there's a percussion, and it ain't no drum coming from the room next door.
And then
this is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
Some moaning,
and general.
He thinks it's like dogs or something.
No,
Miles.
Miles,
but
is wrong.
Ruby knows. Ruby knows.
Her face just drops, as it would. In fairness, as a teenage girl, you realize what that is. She runs next door to her parents' room, flicks the lights on and off several times,
which is another thing I learned. Oh yeah, how do deaf people wake up in the morning? Like flash the lights.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next scene is all four of them sitting downstairs. Ruby is mortified.
Yeah.
Miles is kind of giggling to himself. The dad,
he's like, he doesn't give a crap.
He doesn't give a crap, but the dad's going, "So you guys are using protection?" And he signs how to put on a condom. And he's chuckling as he does it. He's very serious though, but you can see behind his eyes he's laughing.
Yeah, he knows.
Miles is kind of chuckling in a way, but Ruby's like, "Dear God, kill me."
Yeah,
it's so funny. He's such an asshole as a dad. He's very. He intentionally makes it awkward for the daughter because he thinks it's hilarious.
Yeah, he's a typical dad. He's trying to make her embarrassed, but he does it via the gift of sign language, which makes it even funnier.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too far, I suppose.
Yeah, he goes nuts. Yeah, he gets very visual with the description. Yeah.
And ordinarily, had there been no Miles there, she'd probably be chuckling away to herself as well. But because it's school life impinging on her normal family life, it's just, no, can't have that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Miles is an idiot, and the next day at school, the bully starts making the noises in the cafeteria, and that's not good.
He really messes up there. So I think his defense was, well, I told my friend.
I told one person.
Assuming that friend wouldn't tell everybody in school, but that's, it's a secondary school. And the funny thing happens, everybody tells everybody about it.
Yeah.
Egypt.
What, I have a note here and I can't make heads or tails of it. So what scene happens next?
Oh, damn it. I was just chatting away.
I have teacher ugly sound. Yes, exclamation mark. Practices.
Yes. Mr. V. He's trying to get her to sing with her own voice because she's trying to sing pretty.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, no, don't sing pretty. Sing like bloody you. Give me your voice. And she won't do it. So he's like, okay. And she starts explaining that when she started talking for the first time, she talked ugly. And he's like, okay, give me that. Give me some of that. I want to hear that. I want to hear it strong. I want to hear you shout. And, he gets her kind of annoyed a little bit as well. And then she starts shouting and screaming. And he's like, yes, use that. And then she starts singing with a deep voice. And like, yes. And he's like, yes, I wanted that. That's what I wanted. Yes. And it's a great scene.
Yeah, it's a good scene. Thanks for reminding me because it's quite important. That's how she sings well.
Yes. She sings with her voice, as she should do.
Yeah. Which I think is very important for all singers, budding singers out there, not to just copy what they think is good.
Yeah, don't try to sound pretty. Try to sound like you.
Voice of sand and glass. Exactly. Not sticks and glue.
Sticks and glue and cheese and bacon.
Yeah. All right, so the next scene is quite funny. The Fisher meeting, and they're like going, yeah, it's where the whole thing's, yeah, the dad wants to stand up and sign languages, suck my dick. And Ruby has to interpret this for all of them.
Yeah, he said suck my dick, but that's not from me, that's from my dad.
Yeah, that was funny. So basically the end of it, him and the son stand up and sign this thing, basically going, yeah, we're going to start a co-op and we're going to sell our own fish.
For twice the price that you were given.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because 2 seconds later, it's a scene of the mum going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How can you offer that amount? We can't do that. How are we going to do this? So the dad's like, it was in the moment.
But I'm not upset with her being angry that moment because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So of course we have to have a montage and I fought the law, but
great tune.
Won. Yeah.
It's lovely. And then the montage is them building the business.
Yeah, so it's Ruby busy with the co-op, but late to the music practices.
Yes.
Constantly.
Repeated over and over again, and Mr. V is getting kind of Mr. Not Happy.
Yeah, so he's like going, Mr. V is like going, listen, you've got one more chance. And so Ruby's heading off one day, and then the news crew comes along, and the mum says, you have to stay. You have to interpret. And I'm like going, you're a dick.
Yeah, he screws her over. Like, I don't have an issue with her asking the daughter to, change her schedule, but give her a heads up. I know it is important and it kind of is essential, but not letting her know that I need you to stay late tonight because you have to sign and interpret for the news crew is just criminal. That's the second time she's kind of screwed over her daughter. So it's... Yeah.
And she's trying to text Mr. V during the thing going, listen, I can't, I've got a family thing popped up. And he's like going, yeah, I told you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So she comes into his music room and he's playing a nice sonata on the piano, which is on the soundtrack. Actually, it's quite nice. And she's basically saying, listen, I've never done anything without my family. I thought that was a nice line, a very pertinent line.
It saves her with Mr. V as well because he thinks about it and he gives her a pass. I think the last time he's going to give her a pass, obviously. But he doesn't chuck her to the curb, which he had intended to do.
Yeah. I think she heads home then and just basically goes, yeah, I want to go to Berkeley. And again, Mom is very naysaying of it.
Yeah, I think it was, the mum is kind of almost anti-hearing people at this point because she says something kind of horrible. She says, okay, that's those people in the city, those Boston people, those hearing people. They're all bastards, I think is what she says. I can't remember the exact word she used. But, daughter's sitting there and she's like, really?
Yeah. But then it's like...
But the dad at this point, he's kind of going, yeah, okay, maybe.
Well, she has a conversation with the dad in bed after the mom. And I think the one thing that I remember him saying was she was never a baby. Which meant basically she was working for us to be the outside world interpreter from the minute she could.
Yeah, that's a very important realization for him. Like, and the fact that she was always working for the family it's not great. From the daughter's perspective, she never had a chance to be a child, never got a chance to do what she wanted to do. She was always looking out for the family concerns. And it kind of harks back to something Miles said earlier. I think it was earlier. I'm not 100% sure. But about how cool he thought she was as a kid when she was ordering food for her family. And she was ordering food like a boss and ordering beers and blah, blah, blah. And that's the realization. She's like 7 or 8 years old when she's doing this.
Yeah.
And that amount of responsibility on an 8-year-old is insane.
Yeah, no, that's a good callback, and that ties in well with what he was saying here. The dad, she was never a baby, and it sounds like she wasn't. So the next scenes are sort of interlaced between each other because Ruby decides not to go out working that next day because she's basically going, I need to figure out how not to work every day for my family.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
At 3 o'clock in the morning. So she basically says to Miles, if you want to be sorry, come out to the quarry with me. So basically, they're in the day swimming around and they obviously meet, they have their first kiss. And, it's not overly soppy or romantic, which I was quite happy with.
Tank Crunchy. It doesn't need to go there. That's not what this movie's about. And it could have ruined the movie, in my opinion. But it doesn't. It keeps it sweet, as you say, and leaves it at that.
Yeah, it's got a lot of good decisions in this movie. Yeah. So in the meantime, the observer has turned up and slowly realized she's out in the boat with the brother and the dad. And
this is hard. Like, this is really...
It is really hard.
Really sorry for the family. I feel sorry for everybody in this. Because the monitor, she's on there.
Doing her job.
Doing her job. She's there. Obviously, it's her first day of the job because she takes a price label off her wet gear. And
yeah.
So this is the first day. And then she's been on the boat for a couple of hours, by the looks of it. When she realizes, when the dad says, I'm deaf, writes it down.
Yeah, writes it down, yeah.
And then she points at the son and he goes, yeah, he's deaf too. And the look on her face is, oh dear God, I'm going to die.
Yeah, this is kosher. It's not kosher. So she rings the Coast Guard basically, and the Coast Guard comes, and it's quite a tense, crazy scene of just a crazy loud Coast Guard on the radio, and then the boat just pulls up really quickly.
When I was watching this, my first reaction in my head was, oh my God, she's been an a-hole and she screwed them. But I thought about it a bit more today, and she was right. She was absolutely right. She was put at danger, and they were being dangerous because you need to be able to hear crap when you're on a boat, like especially if it's the Coast Guard pulling alongside.
Yeah.
And you need to hear the radio, because if you need to hear some important information about the weather and you can't hear it, you're going to die.
Yeah, but I read today that this type of thing has been sort of counter-mandated, for want of a better word, with the Disabilities Act in America. Really? And there is a lot of flexibility with having deaf people on a boat, but I'm guessing
you have to have some sort of measure where you can hear, or at least not hear, but you can get information about bad weather, or the Coast Guard needs to get information like flashing lights or something. Yeah. You need to be made aware of danger.
So in this instance, they obviously need a hearing person on thing. They've been fined $2,500 and they can't go out on the boat again. So they all blame Ruby for that, and that's lovely.
Yeah, I thought that was harsh. In fairness, the emotions were high at that point. Like the business, is, as far as they're concerned, it's kind of in the toilet.
Yeah, it's totally blame game on Ruby, and
she feels guilt at this point as well, though. Even though she struggles against what they're saying and fights back, she still feels guilt on it, and she changes her mind about going to Berkeley. She says, I'll work the boat. I'll stay.
And they're all going, great. The bro's like going, no, why is it? So it's the Ruby show, whatever, like, what the hell? I can do this.
Yeah. He's annoyed for two reasons, as far as I can tell. He's annoyed because, yes, I can do this. He believes this, and we can, as a family, make this happen. We just need to hire somebody who's hearing. And he says this, like, we need somebody who's got hearing. Just hire somebody. But obviously the mum's freaking out about that, and he just storms off. Yeah. And he's right.
So the next scene, the mum comes up to the bedroom with a red dress for Ruby, which was, it's nice and sweet, but I don't know. I was feeling at this stage, come on. And then they have a conversation, and it's like, Ruby asks her, do you ever wish I was deaf? And that's when she says what we mentioned earlier.
To be honest, it's a very, very, very real, very honest sort of emotion, I would imagine. Like, it's, she's saying it. Something that would be reasonably hard for somebody to say, I would imagine, saying that I wish you were deaf when you were born. That's what I wanted at the time, because I was scared I wouldn't have connection with you if you were hearing, because it'd be something me and you don't share.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
And it's a realization, it's an honesty that the mum needed to address, I think.
Yeah, and she says a couple of things. I know I drive you crazy, and I'm happy you know who you are, and so...
I didn't want to be a bad mum, and then I like the response was that, well, no, that's not the reason you're a bad mom. There's many reasons why you're a bad mom.
Yeah, it was fine. It was quite a mild conversation, but quite real, I guess, as you say.
Yeah.
And I guess it shows a little bit of a softening in the mum's approach, but also not really. She wasn't saying to her, you can go to Berkeley.
She wasn't backing down at this point, but there, at least there was more of a leveling of the playing field, a bit more honesty in why she was reacting the way she was. It's not fixed yet. That comes later, but yeah. It's an important scene. It's a step.
Yeah. Anyway, we have a next scene next day when Bro's still not happy. He's hiding down in the beach, and she goes, "Are you hiding?" He goes, "Not well enough, not good enough hiding. You found me." Yeah, he's just going, just go, just get out of here, just whatever.
Yeah, this is where he says, "I got this."
Yeah, I can deal with this.
You go do the singing stuff. You're good at it. Your friend told me you're amazing. You go do that, you idiot.
Yeah, but he also says, "I wish you weren't born. It was fine before you." And I was like, "Oh, Jesus, that's a bit harsh."
That was a bit harsh, but then again, it's kind of a real thing that families say to each other all the fucking time.
Yeah, true. Now we've got a big scene, next scene, which is quite pertinent. The concert scene where Ruby is singing. So it's the two parents. It's the brother and the bro's girlfriend
/ Ruby's friend. Yeah.
So they're holding hands and stuff. But I thought it was a very interesting thing where the parents are looking around when the music is happening. They can't interact with what's going on.
But they use the rest of the audience as a gauge to see what's happening.
Later, they do.
Yeah, they do. But first of all, they're chatting to each other about lasagna.
Dinner. They're asking about... They're singing. Ruby sees this when she's singing her first song. It's like, and she's going, they're not even interested. They're not even happy to be here.
It really annoyed me.
It was very annoying.
Yeah. But I think it's explained very soon after why they might lose interest. Because as she's singing her duet with Miles about 30 seconds later, the volume just gets turned down to 0.
So good.
It's so very good. Because it's just it's shot behind the parents' heads, and everybody's clapping and, crying and motion. Everybody's like, yes, this is amazing. And it's just the two parents looking on, going, okay. And they're just looking around at all the other people enjoying the music. And it's just so... I don't know what's the word I'd use, informative as to the scenario that they're experiencing right there. Because their daughter's doing something amazing on stage, and they can't appreciate it without the help of other people appreciating it for them.
Yeah, I would have loved if it was a bit more emotional for them. They never showed an emotion, though. They got a recognition, but I thought the dad actually was more than the mum looking around them.
I think that comes... There's a scene directly after they get home where the dad really figures it out.
Yeah, but I'd say again, I don't think the mum actually does enough to warrant what happens the next day or whatever.
It's my take on it that perhaps dad... I might as well talk about the scene because it's directly afterwards. Yeah. When they get home from the concert.
Actually, yeah. Let's just go through it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was funny when the Mr. V says...
Mr. V,
yeah. He goes, "Nice to fuck you."
Yeah, because the sign for fuck and meat is the difference between one finger and two fingers.
Yeah.
One finger and one finger banging together. That's it's a sign I know already. I
also liked the way he said, "Hey, please tell your parents you're a great singer and they're making a terrible mistake." Ruby goes, "No,
that's not happening. I'm not telling them that."
Yeah. So they get home and it's a beautiful scene where she sings to her dad and he holds her throat.
Yeah, just to feel the vibrations, and it goes back to him listening to gangster rap earlier on.
There's a good link.
And the first scene as well returns the stereo up to full just to get some vibrations out of it.
Yeah.
So he does appreciate music. He maybe just likes the rhythm, but he feels her throat, and there's true emotion coming through in his face. Like, it's really strong. This is where I think he gets the Oscar, right in that scene.
This scene, it's just a purely gnarled fisherman's face just showing every emotion.
And then it's cracking with emotion as he hears his daughter sing through his hands. It's just powerful stuff.
It reminded me of Michael Keaton's like face wrinkles in Birdman, just sort of acting with your face, But not as this scene was quite emotional and sort of poignant to say the least. Anyway, they're basically going, "Get up. You're going to an audition in Berkeley. We're going to drive."
Does it have to go fishing? No, we're not going fishing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're basically going, "Yeah, you deserve to try at least. So go for it." So they drive, and Miles is there. He's choked, he said, and she goes in casual clothes, no sheet music. The board and the piano goes.
No preparation. Yeah.
Do you know this song?
Nope. No, I don't know Janis Joplin at all.
Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell, sorry. But okay, Mr. V would have saved me there as well.
Yeah, so Mr. V says, "I can play for her."
Yes, saves the day.
Yeah, his arc is complete as a nice person. Yeah, so she sings both sides now, and they're like going, "Yeah," but then the family sneak in, and she signs the rest of the song,
which elevates this scene so high in my opinion.
So good.
It is
so
really
good.
It's okay. as she's doing the audition. It's an okay scene. It finishes, it ties up everything. But then as she signs, just the connection between her and the family, everything's tied up. It's beautiful. It's such an emotional scene. And it's just perfection.
It's great.
Yeah. Brilliant scene.
Yeah. And when she's singing as well, there's a little montage on the boat, and she's getting accepted into Berkeley. They're hanging around a computer.
They hire a guy who can speak and hear on the boat.
But can't fish.
Can't fish for crap. The dad's getting really annoyed with him. Yeah, you could be taught to fish.
And then that's the end. The final scene is where they're saying goodbye, and they have the final ass monkey shit nugget between the siblings.
Again, brilliant.
Yeah, and so she's driving away, and she goes, "No, wait, stop," and goes back in for one big family group hug. And then hugs her dad separately, which I thought was pertinent because she doesn't know how to hug her mum singly. She's like going, "I know you did this, probably. I know."
Well, he's the way. She knows that he convinced the mum.
Yeah,
the mum until nearly the end doesn't understand.
Yeah,
maybe she can't understand until it's explained to her.
Yeah. The last thing she does is sign out the car window. "I really love you" is when you cross your fingers. That's the difference between "I love you" and "I really love you."
It looks painful. I was trying to do it, and I was like, that means I can't love people, really.
Yeah. Well, you've never been in the West Side Massive, and you had to do the West Side.
No. It looks just as painful as that. I can't do it. I've got arthritic hands, I guess.
Yeah. All right, I give plot 3.75 out of 5. I didn't expect. Can I do 4? Probably not. I think 3.75 is a great score for a sort of an indie movie.
I went 4.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I was the reason why I upped it a bit, because I was expecting much less. I thought it was going to be generic Glee meets coming of age nonsense I've seen 1,000 times before, but it wasn't that, and I was so pleasantly surprised that I decided I'd chuck it up a bit. So I give it a 4.
Excellent. What did you give for acting?
I give another 4.
Well done.
Specifically around the father, actually. I thought he was epic.
I gave 3.75. Yeah, it's again a good score. Good score.
Great score. Yeah.
Sound Brackets track, I gave 4. I liked it a lot, and I will listen to it probably over the next couple of days.
Just to keep things balanced, I put down 3.75.
No, I really fell in love with Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now song, and then a lot of the other songs. Etta James kicking the movie off.
Chucking a bit of Ramones. Fantastic. What I did knock it down for, the reason I knocked it down was because it was one of the choir scenes, I think maybe earlier on when they're practicing. It just Glee and all that stuff annoys the crap out of me. And when I was watching this, I was annoyed. And I was like, oh no, this movie's crap. I was wrong. But that feeling of crapness still kind of lingered a tiny bit.
That's fine. I also got to think about the sound as well, and I think the sound of the deaf scenes and the one doing sign language.
When they turned the volume down, I think that's more of a production thing in my head, but
true.
It's one of the best things I've seen production-wise in a movie ever. It's just so smart.
I was wondering, would they do it at some point? I didn't think it was going to happen. I just thought about it one time. Also, I thought that Ruby's friend, the brother's girlfriend, would be the person that would help out on the boat because they were teaching. He was teaching her to sign.
I've read this written down here, and I know for a fact that's going to happen. It never happened, and I'm so delighted it didn't happen.
Yeah, I guess another production choice.
Yeah, very good choice.
What did you give production?
3.75.
I give 4.
Again, like the 3.75 is great score. Let's be honest, and I like because it's not a difficult movie to produce, in my opinion.
Yeah, they shot it all in Massachusetts. It's quite a nice area.
But that scene when they crank down the volume for the concert, really raised it up for me. Somewhat.
It really puts you into their seats.
Yeah.
Richard Brody in the New Yorker gave it 40 out of 100. He said, "The sense of calculation makes a journey feel like a lockstep march. The movie's sense of a story that's dictated rather than observed makes its good feelings feel bad."
Well, he sucks.
I sort of guess. I kind of sense where he's coming from. It's. I think it comes out in the mother's plot line. Because I don't think she has a good enough arc. I think it needs to be a bit more of a meaty addition to it.
Not everybody deserves a redemption arc, really.
No, especially in indie movies, I guess. Yeah.
Maybe sometimes it's right for things to kind of suck for a bit.
Yeah. Anne Hornaday
Jesus, really?
Sorry, Anne. I know you're a great listener.
Speaking of people who got picked on in school by people like Colin.
Sorry, I never bullied anybody in school. I was bullied.
Yes, by me.
Yeah. She gave it 100 out of 100. You'll laugh, all right. You'll cry. You'll do both at the same time. Coda is just that kind of movie, and thank goodness for it.
Well, I kind of agree with the sentiment, but I don't know about 100 out of 100. I always say that, though. I hate people giving 100 out of 100.
You hate hundreds. Yeah, you hate hundreds.
Nothing's perfect.
Yeah. No. Apart from Shawshank Redemption, but that's...
and anything Tarantino.
Okay, so I just signed there. This is the end of this episode.
Yes.
This is the end of Coda, I mean. I just signed for that, so you didn't see that. So we've got, I believe, 3 more weeks of Best Picture Oscar winners. So I'm going to roll the dice now for our next movie. And it is number 95, which I think is the last one. So we're going to find this very hard to find. It's Wings from 1929. Woo!
Wow. I think I've seen about 2 minutes of this years ago.
All right, so the synopsis is quite short on Metacritic, maybe because there's not enough information about it. 2 young men, one rich, one middle class, who are in love with the same woman, become fighter pilots in World War I. 1929, it's got a Metascore of 78 and a user score of TBD, which means nobody has reviewed this, which is weird because it's an Oscar winner. It's interesting.
Starring Paul McCartney.
Yeah. No, it stars... it's directed by William A. Wellman. And has he done... Oh, he directed A Star Was Born.
Oh, okay. That's but only... Yeah, okay.
It stars nobody I know. Gary Cooper's in it. Gary Cooper.
Okay.
Richard Arlen, Charles Buddy, something, Clara Bow. So we need to get on. Charles Buddy Rogers, I mean, it is. And Clara Bow. Let's see if she was in anything. No, she was not in anything. Okay, so... That'll be interesting, going way back to the start of the Oscars history. That's crazy. We got 95. Okay, so we'll watch Wings in episode 47 of 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews. Please keep on sharing our podcast. I know you are, because views are just rolling in.
Millions of them.
Millions of you feckers out there. So, yeah, share and like. You can find us on every platform that you want to find us on, if you really want to. We're out there. Okay, so we'll see you next time on episode 47. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.